So the sun has come back out, and I've ventured over to the small village of Bepton. It's east of South Harding on the way to Midhurst. Now, it's not quite exactly the middle of nowhere, but it's definitely off the beaten track. However, there is something that's just over here that I want to show you.
It's just on the other side of the sheep field. You can see it hiding behind the trees. If you go further along the lane and turn off, you'll come to a gate. Go through there and walk up a little path that winds through some majestic yew trees. On the little hill in front of you, you'll find it, St. Mary's of Bepton, a 12th century church that has withstood the test of time. And what an amazing setting! The church and churchyard look out over the fields and onto the South Downs. It's remote and peaceful, and there's usually not another soul around. This site was selected by the Saxons around 700 AD, and those early Christians built a wooden church here that was dedicated to St. Mary, the mother of Jesus. So the correct title of the present building is the Church of St. Mary, the Virgin. When the Normans invaded from France, they apparently wanted a more sturdy house of worship, and so the wooden church disappeared and was replaced by this more solid structure. The tower we see today was built between 1180 and 1185. Its walls were constructed with flint and chalk and are an impressive 3.5 feet thick. But those massive walls proved too heavy for the chalk foundations, and the tower started to tilt. Imagine. So instead of having a leaning tower of Bepton, they scrapped their plans for a tall tower and opted for a short one, putting a roof on it at the first floor level. But over the centuries, the stability of the tower continued to cause concern. And so in 1620, it was propped up with these massive brick buttresses. They're pretty substantial for such a low structure, and they seem to do the trick, because as far as I can tell, the tower is on the straight and narrow. Like most of the historic churches around here, the doors are always open, and visitors, even curious Yanks, are welcome to wander in and nose around. With the lights on, you can see it's a simple but lovely space. There are just a few narrow lancet windows. There's not a lot of natural light getting in. The stained glass windows in the nave and chancel are all 19th century or later. At that time, we're talking the late 1800s, there were lots of additions and alterations. Most notably, these pews were introduced throughout after the church got a gift of £50. And there are some other interesting and unusual features inside. Up near the altar, for instance, you'll find this little stone shelf.
Evidently, this was a precursor of something known as a credence table, where the priest or the vicar would place sacred objects that were used in the Eucharist or the Holy Communion.
On the north wall, there's a striking tomb, or sepulchre, as some people call it. It's a very decorative monument to one Rado de la Hedol, dating from about 1300. The text below the niche has been transcribed onto a board and reads, "Rado de la Hedol lies here. God grant him the greatest mercy." It's written in Lombardic, a now extinct West Germanic language. We don't know who Rado was, but he must have been a very large man, because his nearby tombstone with its carved cross or sword is 7 feet long. From the main entrance, I'm reminded of its pastoral setting. And so it's kind of nice to wander off to this bench and park yourself for a breather and admire the scenery. I've been here a few times when it's warm and sunny, and I have to say, when the flowers and the trees are in bloom, it's pretty glorious. You know, it's funny, I never planned on making a bunch of videos about ancient churches. It just kinda happened. But I think these little structures sitting in the shadow of the South Downs are pretty special. I mean, the oldest church still standing in the US is a chapel in Santa Fe, New Mexico, dating back to the early 1600s. So by that time, St. Mary's of Bepton had already been in this spot for about 9 centuries. And that's the main reason I think it's so cool. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.